Welcome, welcome everybody. Out from the heat. Well, to me, hot. Probably not to you guys. Oh, we still have people coming in. Yay. Before we start our soul singing today, I'm going to invite the people who are at home on the live stream, hello people at home on the live stream, to get out a chalice or a candle or something that you can light with us when we light our chalice here in the building today. I got to pick the opening hymn today, which makes me super happy. And I picked something out of the teal hymnal. You don't have to have it. It's going to be the words up on the on whatever that thing is, the screen. It's going to be number 1000, Morning Has Come. Please rise in body or spirit as you are willing or able. Morning has come, arise and greet the day. Dance with joy and sing a song of gladness. The light of hope here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. A new day dawns, once more the gift is given. Wonder fills this moment shared together. The light of peace here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home. Open your eyes to see that life abounds. Open hearts to welcome it among us. The light of love here shines upon each face. May it bring faith to guide our journey home.
Good morning, and happy Easter, and happy Transgender Day of Visibility. There's a lot going on today. Welcome to our multi-platform space here at the Unitarian Universalist Congregation of Miami, or as we call it, UU Miami. As a member of the Unitarian Universalist Association, or the UUA, we bring a liberal religious voice to the great city of Miami. I am the Reverend Tom Capo, the minister here, and my pronouns are he, him, and his. I'm a white cisgender male, and I'm wearing a tie with butterflies and a stole with flowers for Easter. So there you go. Up on the chancel with me is Joseph, who you heard play amazingly, and Martha, who's playing, and come on up, and Jessica. Our Director of Religious Exploration. We're all going to be part of the service today. UU Miami is a community of brave, curious, and compassionate thinkers and doers. We invite you to learn more about us. You can go to our Facebook page, our Instagram, our LinkedIn, our webpage, or talk to somebody. You can talk to me or talk to people with the yellow or orange lanyards. And if you've been coming for a while and are interested in membership, I'd be glad to help you figure out the path to membership. Now, if you would join me in our covenant, it'll come up in just a second. There it is. We are an open, welcoming community who embodies respect, kindness, compassion, and curiosity. We foster a safe space that invites others to express their authentic, creative selves and unique ideas. We build relationships with one another by listening deeply with understanding and respect. We make a positive difference in our community using our combined time, talents, and treasure. We are committed to embracing learning, growth, and change.
It is our tradition to light a chalice at the beginning of our services. Our chalice lighting words this morning were written by Unitarian Universalist Reverend Arlen Goff. Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, from outside to inside, and back again, from here to there, and from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life pregnant with possibilities. How will we be renewed in this moment? How will we be changed in this hour? How will we be transformed through this gathering of beloved community? Come, you longing, thirsting souls, come, let us worship together.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Jessica, your RE Director of Religious Exploration for Children and Youth. And today I'm here dressed in purposeful colors. It may look like spring colors, but they're actually representative of the transgender pride flag, the blue, the pink, and the white, which you also see represented there in the trans-inclusive, or the inclusive flag over here with the pink, blue, and white there. So pink is supposed to signify, of course, that who identifies more as female, blue more as male, and the white being neutral or gender binary. So, and those color schemes were created in the year 2000 by a woman named Monica in, I think, Virginia, who actually gave us the transgender pride flag. So before that didn't even exist. So today is a Veterans Day of sorts. So a day when we celebrate the lives and the impact of some of the most courageous and outrageous people in our world, the population of people who have existed since the beginning of recorded time, although we don't always acknowledge them in our textbooks or even in our stories told throughout history. But there are people like Marcus Aurelius Antoninus, better known as Elagabalus, who was a Roman emperor from 218 to 222 BC, an emperor who reportedly wore makeup and wigs and preferred to be called a lady and not a lord, and who supposedly offered half his Roman Empire to any physician who could make him a woman. So this has existed through all of time. There's also historical mythical deities like Cupid, drop back your bow, right? You know Cupid, the god of desire, erotic love, attraction, and affection. And did you know that Cupid is the being that is the offspring of Hermes and Aphrodite? And who's ever heard of the term hermaphrodite? Hermaphrodite is also an intersex individual, and being the child of Hermes and Aphrodite, we get the word hermaphrodite. So we see in even Greek mythology that we have a term that describes a gender variant person. So Cupid has no gender, and how cool is it that we also celebrate Valentine's Day with a gender diverse character? Isn't that awesome, right? Who knew? I did, but now you do too. So there are leaders like Wewa, a Zuni two-spirited individual who took on duties as a Native American cultural ambassador to the United States during the turn of the 19th and 20th century. In the indigenous community, two-spirited individuals were gifted and honored persons because they carried two spirits with them, both female and male. They were often the healers, the medicine people, the visionaries, celebrated in their cultures for being different. Many cultures in history have held gender diverse people in reverence and in admiration. Such are the Hijra of India, who are actually designated a third gender, the Fa'afafine in Samoa. There's also the Mahu in Hawaii, who were celebrated by their people until the colonizers came and thought that they were blasphemous, and they tried to push them away. But there's many around the world and many examples throughout the world of people who were gender diverse. There were also pioneers like Dora Richter of Germany or Lily Ebert, who you might have heard of, portrayed in the movie The Danish Girl. Has anybody ever seen that movie, The Danish Girl? Excellent film. I encourage you to go look it up and find it. It's an excellent film. And it tells the story of Lily Ebert, who was one of the first people to have surgery to become her affirmed gender. There was also Alan Hart, radiologist, who pioneered X-ray machines. Christine, so who didn't know that our modern X-ray machine was actually pioneered by a gender diverse person, right? Christine Jorgensen, famous in the 1950s as the GI becomes a blonde beauty. There's the headlines right up there on the screen. You can see that there. And you can imagine what that meant to a world that didn't have the internet and that didn't have anything except, periodicals and such. And so many people who were gender diverse at the time felt alone until they saw somebody like this on their newsreels before their movies, when they'd go to the movies and to see them in the paper. So there's also Michael Dillon, who is a British doctor. These are all men and women who, in modern recorded history, became some of the very first transgender people to undergo surgeries and treatments to become fully realized in their affirmed gender identity. There's also courageous women like Marsha P. Johnson, a black transgender rights activist whose work through the 1960s and 70s had a profound impact on the LGBTQ+ community. She and her friend Sylvia Rivera were arrested at the birth of what we now call the American Gay Liberation Movement at a place called, and maybe some of you have heard of this, the Stonewall Inn in Greenwich Village, so in New York. Some say in the trans community that this entire movement for LGBTQ plus equality started with a pair of drag queens. So there's also trailblazers like Reed Erickson, whose philanthropic work contributed millions of dollars to the early LGBTQ movement of the 1970s. Renee Richards, a trans woman, American ophthalmologist, and professional tennis player who fought to compete as a woman in the 1976 US Open and won. There she is, featured there. So when you hear this argument that trans people shouldn't play, you know, in the sports with their affirmed gender, it's all a bunch of hooey. So there's also Chaz Bono, the only child of Sonny and Cher, outed as a lesbian, but later came out as transgender. He's been a role model for many trans men, wrote a book, made a documentary movie on his life story, and even competed on Dancing with the Stars, proving that even trans people like myself can dance. So, for sure. Many of us know about Laverne Cox. She's an African-American actress and LGBTQ plus advocate, who is also the first openly transgender woman to win a daytime Emmy. She appeared on the cover of Time magazine in 2014 with the headline, "The Transgender Tipping Point, America's Next Civil Rights Frontier." And there you can see the Time magazine, one of the first times we've seen a trans woman on the cover of Time magazine. We've also seen Christine Jorgensen on that cover. So she holds a mirror to our society and supports our rights to be authentic to ourselves. Then there's Caitlyn Jenner. I was waiting for some booze. Okay, she may not be popular these days because of her politics, yes, because of her, but whose transition served as a catalyst for many trans-identified individuals in the 21st century. So, formerly Bruce Jenner, Caitlyn's public transition made the word transgender known to everyone all over the world. She wasn't just Bruce Jenner, the man on the Wheaties box, the Adonis of a man, you know, the Olympian heartthrob, but that wacky dad on the Kardashians that became a woman. So her transition sparked conversation between all generations all over America about what it means to be transgender. Parents were like, what? That's Bruce Jenner? And kids were like, so what? You know, so it was really interesting to see how the generations were able to find conversation. So like her or not, she is one of the catalysts of our modern world that really brought this out to the forefront and made this word something that people recognized. Very much like Christine Jorgensen did in the 1950s for the community. Then there's this young girl who's close to my heart, Jazz Jennings, a young girl whose parents allowed her to live her authentic self after she communicated to her mom and dad at a young age that she wasn't a boy, that she preferred pink sippy cups and dresses. She made headlines as one of the youngest trans-identified kids when she appeared with Riley Gaines on 2020 with Barbara Walters. And there we have the family there, Jeanette Jennings and her kids and the twins. So, you know, the jazz show I Am Jazz on Lifetime gave hope to many trans youth all over the world. I can't tell you how much that she has really impacted. And Jazz Jennings stands on the shoulders of the people who came before her. She has a fascination with older trans individuals like myself because it lets her see herself in the future, because she didn't see herself in the future as a little child. You know, so speaking of Jazz, I remember specifically when I met that family. Jazz was 5 years old when I met her, and her mom, Jeanette, having met me, said to me that I had given her hope. Because up until that moment in time, she was concerned about the future of her child. After meeting me, she realized that Jazz could have what many might call a normal life. A life with friends, a life with family, with work and happiness. My story wasn't the transgender sob story she'd often heard in the media. So yes, even Jessica Lamb, yep, that's me. I just discovered that people often refer to me by my full name. So they don't just call me Jessica, they say Jessica Lamb. I've come to find this out recently, so I thought that was kind of funny. I came out during a time when it wasn't popular or even heard of at the end of the 20th century. There wasn't even a trans community while I was growing up. We weren't so visible. acceptance as sensationalized tabloid talk shows, or as comedic relief on television shows or movies, shows like Bosom Buddies with Tom Hanks, remember that one? Tootsie, you know, with Dustin Hoffman, who actually, I always say, if you want to win an Academy Award in Hollywood, just portray a trans person on the screen, right? Trans America, Felicity Huffman, Some Like It Hot. I always say, you know, because it's always cisgender people playing these transgender roles, what if we had an actual trans person who was portraying these roles? What would that mean? So that's why today, you know, we celebrate Trans Day of Visibility, so we can acknowledge for those people who are out. So in 2007, just around the time that Jazz was on 2020, I was invited to appear on the Larry King Live show with my children. If you're interested in seeing the video, just Google Jessica Lamb and Larry King. I pop right up, and you'll see my kids when they were in their teens. They were about, I think, 15 and 16 when they were on the show with me. I decided, after a conversation with my kids, to be visible, to show the world that we were just like everyone else. We struggle, we persevere, we are your neighbor. Like any person you might have met in the street, you might have come shopping in my store one day, didn't even realize I was transgender. Typical American family doing our best to make it day to day, despite extraordinary circumstances. And I give thanks every day to my family who are always there for me, who may not have understood me or understood why I was doing what I was doing and just trying to be myself. But they proved to me unconditional love. Proved to me that people are capable of it. They didn't ask for a transgender kid. They got one, and they decided to stand by me. Now, you won't see them waving a pride flag in front of the house or anything, but they love me. I'm a part of their lives. You know, it would have been easier for them to just dismiss me and just say, you know, you're not welcome in our house anymore. But they didn't, so they're my superheroes. And people like you who approach me and say, hi, Jessica, how are you doing? And acknowledge me for who I am, you're superheroes to me. And you can be for many trans individuals that you meet. Because we are parents, we're family members, we're your co-workers, your neighbors, your RE Director of Children and Youth. Most of all, we're your friends and acquaintances, your co-workers, and the people that you meet each day. Yes, we are a diverse community representing all racial and ethnic backgrounds as well as faith traditions. Yes, you will see a gender diverse person in all kinds of faiths, from Jewish synagogues to Buddhist temples to Christian churches. They're there. And the International Transgender Day of Visibility, also TDOV, is an annual day of recognition celebrated around the world on today, which happens to be Easter as well, March 31st, which is dedicated to celebrating the accomplishments and victories of transgender and gender-expansive people, while simultaneously raising awareness of the work that is still needed to combat discrimination and violence. So TDOV was founded in 2009. So we've been celebrating this day for about over a decade now, and it's as much needed day of recognizing our transgender and gender-expansive loved ones. Given that a minority of Americans say they personally know someone who's transgender, the vast majority of the public learns about trans people, guess from where? The media. So whatever the media is feeding them is what they're getting about this community. And there's a problem with that, because much of the media today has overwhelmingly shown misrepresented, mischaracterized, and stereotyped trans people since the invention of film. D.W. Griffith, back in 1914, had a film that portrayed a transgender-like character who was seen as like a villain in the movie, and was sort of seen in a very negative light. And so we start in film with these negative portrayals, and we've seen this all throughout. I invite you to watch the documentary Disclosure. It's produced by Laverne Cox, and there you have Disclosure, and there's another one called Visibility. Visible, out on TV. That one's on Apple TV. For more exploration on how history has often portrayed the gender diverse community and how it's caused harm to the public consciousness about the transgender people. So I encourage you to please snap a picture of that Disclosure, Visibility when you have time. You can stream those either on Netflix or on Apple TV. So while we've made significant progress in recent years, with more visibility than ever before, we are still fighting for basic human rights for the community. The state of lawmaking right now against the trans community is frightening, especially here in the state of Florida. But there's hope, and I hold on to hope. as there's been a spark ignited with our youth today. There's a trans community whose voices are united and loud, louder than I've ever heard them, because when I was growing up, there was not a trans community who was loud. We were hiding. We were in the shadows. We were not visible back then. There's also lawmakers out there trying to make a difference, like our current president. Whether popular or not, on March 30, 2023, our president, Joseph R. Biden Jr., issued a proclamation designating March 31st as the official Transgender Day of Visibility, calling upon all Americans to join together in lifting up the lives and voices of transgender people throughout the nation and to work to eliminate violence and discrimination against all transgender, gender nonconforming, and non-binary people. As a person trans-identified, to hear a president say that, and even in his State of the Union address, he even mentioned transgender people, we support you. That's something that you don't hear often from our leaders. In this proclamation, our current president states, and I quote, these are his words, "The Transgender Day of Visibility celebrates the joy, strength, and absolute courage of some of the bravest people I know. People who have too often had to put their jobs, relationships, and lives on the line just to be their true selves. Today, we show millions of transgender and non-binary Americans that we see them. They belong. They should be treated with dignity and with respect. Their courage has given countless others strength, but no one should have to be brave just to be themselves. Every American deserves that freedom." He further states that transgender Americans shape our nation's soul, proudly serving in the military, curing deadly diseases, holding elected office, running thriving businesses, fighting for justice, raising families, and much, much more. As kids, they deserve what every child deserves: the chance to learn in a safe and supportive school, to develop meaningful friendships, and to live openly and honestly. As adults, they deserve the same rights that enjoyed by every American, including equal access to health care, housing, jobs, the chance to age with grace as senior citizens, as I'm going to be learning in the next couple years. But today, too many transgender Americans are still denied those rights and freedoms. I'm afraid sometimes to just walk into the emergency room because I don't know what kind of treatment I'm going to get depending on who's sitting there and what kind of political affiliation they might have. A wave of discriminatory state laws is targeting transgender youth, terrifying families, and hurting kids who are not hurting anyone. An epidemic of violence against transgender women and girls, in particular women of color. Many have taken their lives too soon. We have in November the Transgender Day of Remembrance. That is our Memorial Day, where we remember those people who have been killed from hate crimes, from violence, just for being themselves. So that's why we take today the Transgender Day of Visibility, to celebrate those of us who are visible and who are still here. Those are some great words given from our president, and I hope that they ring true through every part of our government and for future generations. We all stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. It's why my community celebrates the Transgender Day of Visibility. So I hope that today and every other day after today, when you meet a gender diverse individual, you give them a hug. You let them know how much you value them for their courage, their perseverance, their honesty in being true and authentic. How many of us can raise our hands and say that we're true and authentic all the time? And if you can, you might have cisgender privilege. Also use their preferred pronoun. How hard is that? Sometimes that will save a life. When somebody tells you who they are, they mean who they say they are. So by you acknowledging them by their proper pronoun or addressing them by the name they have chosen, honors them and affirms them. You wouldn't want somebody using a different name for you, right? You wouldn't want somebody misgendering you and calling you a different pronoun, right? They want the same thing, and they've given it some thought. Most of all, I want you to use your cisgender privilege to speak up and support them, because yes, there is such a thing called cisgender privilege. If you've never had to question why you have the right for proper health care, or if you've never had to say, these are my pronouns, right? People just assume. I want you to consider that your voice is heard loudly and that you, when you become the change you want to see the world, you make a difference. Don't put up with someone misgendering another or speaking harshly about the things they don't know or understand. So educate others, as I've educated you today in these brief 15 minutes that I'm with you sharing you this information. I want you also to encourage others to vote and pass laws to protect the rights of everyone. Everyone. So I want you to be a trans ally. Please consider being a trans ally and help to make a difference in the lives of gender diverse persons. You know, sometimes a trans person might feel unsafe going into a restroom where they feel comfortable in, and if you see somebody that may feel a little hesitant, would you like me to accompany you into the restroom? You know, I had a news crew did that for me once. I was in downtown Miami at the commission's office when we were trying to get a law passed for the bathroom bill. And I had an opposition on the other side who was trying to speak all these horrible things, that all trans people were pedophiles and invalids. And, you know, I think many of you may know that I used to be a Christian minister in the 1990s. I left my church as I transitioned and went through a divorce. And the man who was sitting on the opposing side as I was in front of the commissioners of Miami-Dade County, our government officials, was my former pastor speaking really horrible things about our community. I don't think he even realized who I was standing on the other side, and I was genuinely afraid for my own safety that day. And seeing the fear in my eyes, a news crew saw me and said, "Do you mind if we take a camera with you to go use the restroom?" And I'm like, "Sure, you know, don't worry, we're not going to follow you into a stall. We just want to show what that experience is like for you." So they took a camera and they followed me to the restroom. I went in, they saw me close the door of the stall, came out, washed my hands, left out, "How's everything? Everything is great." And then the news reporter says, "Nothing wrong here, you know, somebody just using the restroom." And so it was really powerful. So, you know, I want you to think about that too. So those are some of the ways you can be a trans ally. So on behalf of the gender expansive community, I thank you. Thank you for your understanding. Thank you for your love, your support. Thank you for being you. So does visibility and representation really lead to cultural acceptance? I hope so. Happy Transgender Day of Visibility, folks.
And now let us sing our children and youth to their classrooms. You'll see the words up here on the screen. May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
For those of you who are watching online, I invite you to take out your smartphone and open up the camera app and point it at the QR code there. It'll open up to the UU Miami donation page. If you're here, you have two choices. You can do that as well, or there's going to be a basket passed around that you can put your donation in. Today, you have the opportunity to not only donate to the congregation, but to also donate to PACT, People Acting in Community Together. PACT is a Miami-based grassroots organizing nonprofit. They work on issues that are important to people in Miami. PACT unites, organizes, and trains leaders from diverse congregations, schools, and community groups to build a powerful community voice. Individually and collectively, they are empowered to hold officials accountable, achieve systemic change, and promote fairness, justice, and democracy in Miami-Dade. We'll be splitting the plate with them from April to June. And just to let you know, our Social Justice Committee is a member of PACT. This congregation is sacred to so many of us, a community of memory and of hope. Let there be an offering to sustain and strengthen this place and the work that we do in the world, for we are now the keepers of the dream. I found a reading I want to share with you today. Now, I found it on Tumblr. I don't often go on Tumblr, but I found, things happen. It's in River Rose Boyd's blog. Now, Rose Boyd is gender fluid. It's called What Mary Magdalene Said to the Young Transsexual. Now, I did a little bit of editing, and I did want to just affirm that for those of you who don't know who Mary Magdalene is, she is a person in the Christian myth about Jesus. She was one of his followers and witnessed his crucifixion and resurrection. I invite you, as you listen to these words, that you maybe take a little time to move into a sense of prayer or meditation, perhaps allowing yourself to be centered. You might close your eyes as you listen and see how these words impact you. Breathe, my friends, as you listen to what Mary Magdalene said to a young transsexual. Child, I know you think yourself doomed, written out of history, or else kept slinking in the shadows of alleyways, disappearing into unforgiving crowds, putting on airs in strange bedrooms, spoken over and denied a place, a heart, a consciousness, a home. I know you have struggled to synthesize yourself into something logical, singular. They have retold you into an outsider, an amalgamation of sinners. The repentant fool they would make out of you if you let them. I know you are not what they have made you out to be. You are, in fact, good and much more. I have seen you with my whole heart, and this is what you need to know. You never were and never will be a singularity, in the sense that you never were and will never be a single thing. You are a singularity in the sense that you are the celestial point from which the universe of yourself will burst forth. It is the nature of people like us to be pluralities, multiplicities, code switchers, rich with motion, speaking in tongues, contorting the canon of love and sex and gender to fit our bodies, not the other way around. Even at rest, we never stop moving. Child, they will try to keep you from yourself. They will try to write you out. They will try to smear your good name. And by the way, it is a good name, well chosen. But do not be afraid to choose a new one if you wish. They will call you perverted, call you out of line, call you scheming, call you outrageous, call you childish or reckless and evil and out of time. They will run you out of time like they did me, if you let them. It does not matter to them if you are beloved by what is pure. It does not matter to them if you are devoted to the same forces that tuck them in at night. You will not change them with kindness. They will eat you alive if you try. So protect yourself with truth and give them no further than that. Child, we are something else. We ourselves are holy. Who are they to claim power over us? They may dictate history, but we are the ones who live it. Amen. It is rare that both Easter and Transgender Day of Visibility occur on the same day, but such is the case this year. And so I wonder if there might be some particular wisdom or insight that can be found in the Easter myth as it relates to this very special day for the transgender community. From Maundy, Thursday, Good Friday to Easter Sunday, Christians commemorate the day of a Jewish prophet, a day when he was tortured and forced to carry a heavy cross, a day he was hung to die and put in a cave for a tomb, and then 3 days later, on another miraculous day, they say the tomb was found to be empty. It was found to be empty by two women. Mary Magdalene was one of them. She was sort of an unacknowledged apostle. She asks a nearby gardener where Jesus' body could be found. The gardener actually was Jesus, but Mary Magdalene doesn't recognize him. Only when he calls her by name does she realize he has been resurrected. The story of death and resurrection is not uncommon in many different religions. The Egyptian god Osiris and the Canaanite god Baal are two of many resurrection myths that exist. And from a psychological point of view, the death of the old self, a less authentic self, an incomplete self, and the changes that take place as the person comes into their truer self, their deeper, more complete self, more fully alive self, can be thought of many different people I've dealt with in my own psychological practice. Resurrection literally means to rise again. Have you experienced a sense of death and resurrection at some point in your life? Pass these on to my new son. I hoped I could overcome my doubts and fears, and when I saw Aaron for the first time emerge from Martha's body, I was transformed. All the fears and questions faded away. All the doubts evaporated. I knew I would be a good father who loved him. I told him that day, at that moment, I loved him, and I tell him every time I see him or talk to him that I love him. Something my father never did till he was very, very old. The person I was on the inside broke through my fears to become the person I became on the outside. I will never know what it feels like to have the experience that I was born in the wrong body. As a white, cisgender, hetero male, I was born in a society that has been normed to standards and structures that support me. Many times, I can be unaware of how I have been privileged. I was inspired as I listened to Jessica talk. I had a fortune, I was actually able to read it before she talked, but about people who embraced psychological, spiritual, and physical transformation in order to become their truest selves. Transformation, resurrection, powerful words. Huffington Post writer Natasha Shea wrote this about that pattern of death and resurrection as it relates to spiritual transformation. She says, all mystics who came before, be it Jesus or Buddha or Muhammad or even Snoopy, had periods of disappearance into the void. The empty spots on the timeline of their life when it seemed they had suddenly dropped off the edge of the planet or even died. Nobody knew where they were or what they were doing. They went alone. They went within, relinquishing their old limited identity and becoming something more, expanded, powerful, closer to their truer selves. In a sense, we may, in some ways or in our lives, have experienced something similar to this, going through this kind of transformation. Except that they had a desert or a cave or a tomb to go to. And what will happen when you finally come out of your dungeon? No angels will descend from heaven, and there'll be no red carpet waiting for you. But you won't need them, because you will find more than ever, when you are your true self, you will feel clear and free, at home within yourself. So in some ways, my friends, it makes sense that Mary Magdalene wouldn't recognize Jesus. Why should she? He'd gone through a profound transformation. How many of you can remember the person you were in high school or in college? What would that past iteration of you recognize about you today? How many of you have been knocked to your knees by what life has thrown at you? And yet here you are today. You rose again. You chose to resurrect yourself. For many Unitarian Universalists, Easter Sunday is uncomfortable. It references a theology that either many no longer believe in or never believed in. And that's certainly valid. That's where this free and responsible search for truth and meaning has brought us. But I think we can all embrace the story of the resurrected self. We can embrace the story of rising again after we've been through whatever has shackled us to that which no longer serves us. Whatever it is that's been holding us back from being our most authentic, truest selves. On this, on this day of transgender visibility and on this Easter, while we celebrate the sacred among us and the candy-filled eggs or whatever was in the eggs out there, I encourage you to take a few moments of reflection. What stones must be rolled away so you can emerge into who you are meant to be?
It's time to sing. We're going to sing from the gray hymnal. You don't have to have it because the words are going to be up on the screen. Number 318, We Would Be One. Please rise in body and spirit as you are willing and able. We would be one as now we join in singing our hymn of love to pledge ourselves anew to that high cause of greater understanding of who we are and what in us is true. We would be one in living for each other to show to all a new community. We would be one in a building for tomorrow, a nobler world than we have known today. We would be one in searching for that meaning which binds our hearts and points us on our way. As one we pledge ourselves to greater service, with love and justice strive to make us free.
First of all, I just want to thank to all the professional and volunteer staff. You don't always know who they are, and I think we have all the board members here today. I just want to say thank you to all of them. Cheryl, our business office manager, child care workers, please go out and say hello to the child care workers from time to time. You never see them. They're really helpful people and nice and everything. Liz, who does our yoga, Ira, who does our communications, Kat, our sexton, Derek, who might stick his hand out here in a minute or not. He's there. Okay. And Joseph, there's he's going to stick his arm out. There, no, okay. There's Joseph. And of course, thank Martha for singing for us today. And really, besides being a wonderful teacher to our kids, I want to thank Jessica for her sharing today. It was profound and moving, and that was fabulous. Please watch your weekly email for newsletters and visit our website for upcoming events. There's going to be a special lunch today. Beasel's back there, Charles is back there, I saw Janice back there, and a bunch of people are back there making an incredible brunch for us today. So please go make yourself a great big lunch or brunch today. It's $5 if you want to donate. If you're here for the first time, don't worry about it, just eat. Next week, I'll be preaching about what the heck is the interdependent web of all existence anyway. And then after that, we'll have our social justice meeting. We'll have Pride Lines here as a special group to talk to us about what they do. And after that, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, we'll have a special jazz fundraiser for the church. The New World School of the Arts High School Jazz Ensemble will be performing. And it's $30. Tell your friends, family, neighbors, anybody. Please tell them to come. On April 14th, there'll be no service in the sanctuary. Instead, we're all going to be going to Pride. Woo! South Beach Pride. And you can come and march if you want to. We'll be watching with safe schools, and or you can get your chair and just watch us walk by. We have yellow T-shirts for everybody. If you don't have one already, would you stand? They look like this. There you go. There's a sign-up list in the back, and there's also a sign-up list in your newsletter. The day after that, Monday, after Pride, we're invited to go to the Pact Nehemiah Action, which is their big event every year. This is where people, just regular people like you and I from different churches and organizations, try to get our elected leaders to make changes. And we put a little pressure on them. If we have a couple thousand people there, they're likely to say yes to the changes we want to make. So if you can make that, there's also a sign-up list in the back. Both of these, we're going to try to do carpooling if you need it. Please let me know. So we'll end the service today with these words by past president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, Reverend Bill Singford. Spirit of life and love, dear God of all nations, there is so much work to do. We have only begun to imagine justice and mercy. Help us hold fast to our vision of what can be. May we see the hope in our history and find courage in the voice to work for the constant rebirth of freedom and justice. That is our dream. Amen. Now I invite you to stand, and if you would, greet one another. This is how we build the community. Joseph, if you wouldn't mind.